I had a Super 8mm projector and I was making films since the late 60s. So when I joined the Transport Museum, I began recording the restoration work on the tram work that I did. Apart from looking at the trams, I also tried to record the many helpers who joined my team and worked so hard to make the dream of restoration possible. Bringing the tram undercover in 1978 was very important. And that's me measuring up rotted components so that they could be made again. Jimmy McDonough and Brendan, who worked for me, sanding the deck. And me providing a coat of preservative. Dudley Ryder was a lovely man and he made up most of the components I needed for the tram. It's thanks to Frank Curran that the tram was brought to Long Mile Road. Not only did it mean a very small journey as opposed to an hour and a half out to Castle Rotherley, but they had vast premises and we were able to erect scaffolding. That's the captain with Noel McGee of Tegral. These are the people from Foss working on the preparation of Phase 1 of the National Transport Museum. A great working team, they worked very hard, and Pat Coffey, seen here with the yellow hat, was their foreman. Well done, Pat. The time came when the museum was ready in 1986 to pick up the tram and bring her back to Howth. It's exciting looking at the pictures of the tram rising up the tracks and so on, but this time look out for the people who are there. None of this could have happened without the help of so many people. That's John Kelleher, captain of the ship, and that's Bert Brown looking on, and Michael discussing some aspect. It's wonderful to see the tram passing by the turrets of Howth Castle as it reverses into the museum. That's Michael looking on, and the tow bus in readiness. Bert Brown. Bert was a great character. He was there every weekend, loved a pint afterwards, and a great man for a story. There's a crowd. There must be 10 people there. This is a very precarious situation. The tram could run away. They're bringing a sleeper down in front of it to stop that. And if a track should topple or twist, the tram could come off, so great care is taken. When a crowd is required, either Michael Corcoran or John Kelleher or John Wheatley contact their friends. And people who I would only see from time to time suddenly appear, and they are there giving of their time to help. It was Michael Corcoran's birthday when the tram arrived, so we gathered around for the shot and we sang Happy Birthday to Michael. And there's Liam Kelly. Now on the upper deck, back in Howth, is John Wheatley, and there's Johnny Grace. We're now putting the surround on the upper deck. It's putting the flesh on the bones. Visually, it makes such a difference. And it's the culmination of months of work. And that's Johnny Grace. John Wheatley there. Johnny Grace, they said, looked like Jesus, and that's Brian Greene. Brian was very good. The firm of Setanta provided the caging on the upper deck, and that's the director. One of the nicest people you could meet, and one of the hardest workers, was Kevin. Kevin Carlton. We called him Lord of the Underworld. We gave him the undesirable task of cleaning the underside of the tram. sanding it down for months, supplying preservative and painting it. Every weekend, colleagues came along to continue whatever they were doing the week before. And there's Brian attending to some small little detail. I heard that tram components were available from the Transport Museum in Amsterdam, so I contacted Rudy de Groot of Hartroot Jones, that's his secretary Marie, and that's the Dutch ambassador. They came out to advise and discuss and see what we needed. They were very helpful, and we progressed and we brought motors back from Amsterdam. Storage was badly needed at the museum, and there were derelict buildings which were once used by the farm. And here we have Pat Vaughan building a wall to contain sheds. And they were very useful to us. For 15 years we had the use of them, and we stored vehicles. They also provided workshop space and sufficient to have scaffolding, and much of the work on the open front tram was carried out there. That's Jim Crossland. I flew over to Amsterdam with Pat, and here we are at the Amsterdam Museum, Pat Vaughan taking details. I needed to make up the seat frames for the upper deck, and this is a shortened version of the work being carried out by the Fulham brothers, the concentration and the work. Now the lats for the seats are being painted here. The next job, of course, will be to bolt them down to the seat frames. That's Bob to the left, and Philip and Bill and Dermot. Brian is discussing some aspect of the controller. We've now started on phase 2 of the Transport Museum in Howth. It used to be a cow parlour, as it was called, and it was broken up into many small divisions, and the first job we had to do was remove a vast amount of blockwork. We were offered $3,000 to bring the tram into the city for the 1990 St. Patrick's Day parade, and these are the volunteers, the hard-working troop, the soldiers who have joined in preparing the tram and raising it to bring to the city. Nothing could happen without these volunteers. They give of their time in all sorts of weather conditions to make our dreams possible. We could not work or proceed or achieve anything without voluntary labour. And this film is really paying a tribute to those who came along, too many to mention, who made it possible. The tram is leaving the gates of Howth Castle on its way. That's two of the tramway men, Dick McGlue and Tom Redmond, on the front platform. And that's Bill watching out. The tram is now approaching O'Connell Street. There's Ellie and her friend on the back platform. It's a great moment to see the tram passing by the GPO. No Great Northern tram ever passed there, and this is where the Great Northern trams would have passed in Sutton Cross. Except going to the museum and not up the hill. That's John. We're elevating the tram to take the bogies out. That is necessary to measure them up and replace missing components in preparation for dropping in the motors. Again, the hard-working men. We are now taking the motors out of the Amsterdam truck. As it turned out, they were too big, but we got motors from the Transport Museum in Newcastle. So we now have the motors fully refurbished and in the bogies, and we're ready for the next stage. I'd like to thank all my colleagues, workers, and those people who turned up to help when they were needed. We could not have survived without your help. Volunteers, as I said, who give of their time willingly and freely. Thank you. And the committee: John Kelleher, John Garland, Kieran Garland, Pat Kirwan, Peter Coughlin, Tom Manning, John Malloy, William Lacey, James Dangle, Bill Garrick, and Bob Laird. Thank you to you all.